You are now tuned.
This is Live Only by Omobola Stephen. I'm your host, Omobola Stephen. Now, on Live Only by Omobola Stephen, we love to explore topics and subjects that are related to personal development and self-improvement. Now, personal development and self-improvement is a lifelong process that you and I need to embrace in this side of eternity in order for us to move from where we are to where we need to be. Now, all of the potentials, all the innate gift sets, and all that we have within that we can use or that can benefit us at the end of the day lies within us, but not till we begin to personally focus inwards and develop these potentials, gift sets, and God's given sets, we may not be able to fully assess or benefit all that God has in store for us. Now, on Lawelli by Omobola Stephen, we like to share disruptive mindset conversations that is going to pivot the changes you and I need in this side of eternity. We have experts and professionals who are adept in these topics, those who have been there and done there, and those who have the right information that is going to transform your life 360-degree and help you to live the fulfilling life as it was originally meant to be. I'm your host once again, Omobola Stephen, and this is Lawelli by Omobola Stephen. Today on the show, I will be talking about the entrepreneurial spirit, building a purpose-driven business with heart. And I have Rhonda Parker-Taylor on the show with me. She's an American writer, entrepreneur, and academic researcher. Hi, welcome to the show, Rhonda.
Thank you. And I really love your energy. And when I joined your podcast a while back to listen, I was like, boy, isn't this amazing how we can talk about how personal development is the courage to transforming ourselves into what our purpose is intended to. So I'm excited to be on the show. I can't wait until we get into our discussion. I know everybody out there is going to enjoy it. Turn up the volume, get comfortable, and let's talk not only about business, but about how to be intentional about our lives and develop ourselves to be the person we're intended to be.
Absolutely, Rhonda. I'm loving the energy already, and thanks for that beautiful introduction to my audience. And now, I said earlier that I would like us to talk about how we can build a purpose-driven business with heart. Now, the question I would like to ask from the bottom of my heart is there anything like a purpose-driven business?
Well, a purpose-driven business for me is when you align what you're doing and what you want with what your God-given skills and purpose is. So yes, there is a purpose-driven business, because if you're not aligning your business with your own personal values and intentionality and uniqueness, then what ends up happening is it's not really an extension of your own thought, your own products, your own value system. So where we meet the personal development, we need to set our own vision of who we want to be on top of the vision of what our organization is going to be. And they should be aligned. And when you align them, then you find a general mood that's more purpose-filled and happy. So yes, I believe there is a deliberate purpose-built organization when you do that. And those leaders that don't do that find themselves many times feeling very isolated and not fulfilled, because they're not going on a journey of reflection and meaning that fills their values.
And now, Rhonda, I would like to rephrase the question once again, or redirect this topic once again. Now, is it all about setting up a business because I have a purpose in mind, and that is to make a profit, which is literally the motive behind setting up a business. But really, do we need to start looking at the spiritual side of it, or seeing beyond just making profits in order to kickstart a business or launching a career?
Well, first of all, we got to realize that you're absolutely correct. You want to make a profit. That's why you're in business. But that doesn't mean that the profit is the only thing important. You have to look at what value does your organization provide to society? That doesn't mean that value doesn't have a cost to it. So first of all, let's take, for instance, consulting. Okay, that the service of consulting requires one to know their worth. That worth is where you get the profit, but the intentionality of what that service is where your purpose is. And if you believe in your product and you develop a product that has value, you will get the profit because you'll know how to charge for it. So really, it's about creating the product that has value to society. What is that value? My value, for instance, in my consulting is that I have some of those God-given talents of soft skills, of knowing how to do transitions, knowing how to implement change, knowing how to develop leadership and workforces to where they thrive in their business, right person, right size. But the profit is still important. No one's saying that you're not in the business to have profit. What we're saying is the value matches the amount that you charge. You know what your market is. You know what the cost is for whatever the product is that you're making, whatever the service that you're providing, but you transform your organization to align with the purpose of whatever that value is.
And now, looking at all of these, where do you think our core purpose should come from?
I apologize. I didn't hear the question.
Yes, and now looking at what you just shared earlier now,
Mhm.
where do you think that our core purpose should come from?
Our purpose should come from one, you look at your product or your services and you must decide what problem does it solve in society or in your community or in the world. And when you know what that problem that it solves is, then you can say, okay, now we solve this problem. How do we get it out there to the world? That is where your leadership values, your distribution values, your vendor values all come into, and your purpose comes into play. Because when you know what problem you're solving, then you know how to set a plan and a strategy that will actually make a difference and distribute that product or service into the world.
All right. How do you think that individuals or prospective entrepreneurs, especially those who just are budding entrepreneurs or starting out in a business, how can they identify and align their decisions with their core values?
So the very first thing is, do you even know your own core values? See, many people don't get themselves into trouble because they don't know, okay, wait a minute, I want to be trustworthy. I want to have vendors that, that follow a certain value. I want to have a certain percent profit. All of those are your core values, right? You have to know how to be successful. So let's say you're a sole entrepreneur, you're just starting out, like you said. The very first thing to do is you should deconstruct who you are and what your product value is. You need to know, what do I believe in? Do I believe that this is a product or a service that should go out and solve the problem at the highest profit value? Is this someone that might be, maybe you want to have a mid profit? You need to have a range of what the cost for those services are, because if you don't charge, then you're not going to stay in business, which is what you said about the profit. But the purpose is to make sure that you leave a legacy. For me, for instance, my purpose is to make people realize their story of success. And that can be from a business perspective or a personal perspective, and help them align their message to show what that story of success is. When you know your value, you know these are the things that are important to me. And I'm talking about purpose-filled value. life balance, financial balance, health balance, operational efficiencies, all the things. Those are values of an organization, but they're also values for people. And you align them. You say, okay, how can I be a better human? How can I be a better leader? How can I be a better financial administrator of my organization? How can I be a better marketer with my message, and making sure that I have a message that's strong and inclusive to all populations that can use my product or services? And when you do that and you set the vision and the objectives of your value, you can align not only yourself, but your organization to it. But think of this. Enron, one of the worst catastrophes in business, right? We read them in case studies all the time. Do we believe that the leaders intentionally were out there to defraud everybody and make it where there was no electrical in California, and that all the stockholders lost their money? No, that wasn't their intentions. What happened is it was one slip here, one slip of our values there, another slip of our values here, another hiding of information there. And what ends up happening is then you have a catastrophe of your organization because you didn't know, or they didn't know and stick to their value core. So we know lying, cheating, stealing, we know these values are important to businesses. We don't want to be that kind of a leader. But then how do you put it in practice in your business? How are you going to put the safeguards to prevent the risks? How are you going to prevent, some non-reporting of crimes? You have to have that value already built into your structure.
Thank you, Rhoda, for sharing that insight. And now you talk about core values. Now, that's absolutely very important, but it doesn't sound so easily as you have put it. And quite right, you and I know that there's so many challenges facing the entrepreneur in this age and time. Talking about finances, talking about customer engagement, you talk about how you can locate the right audience, the right market, setting up the right prices for your products and services. Now, this is some of the challenges that face an entrepreneur in a society today. Now, the question I'd like to ask you is that really, how can a person or an entrepreneur, how can they build an entrepreneurial spirit? Now, in terms of how they can really find the right footing in these business organizations. You have so many out there who do not have to close their business, but they just decided, if I'm not going to close this business, now I am going to have additional streams of income, but is it really worth it at the end of the day? I'd just like you to address this. I put it in a proper perspective. How can we build an entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, the first thing is to realize what an entrepreneur is. It's an innovator. It's a person that, or a group of people that want to create their own entity. An entrepreneur is a business person that wants to step out of the box and do it on their own. They're not in the corporate organization. So that means every structure of that organization is your responsibility. An entrepreneur can't just be one aspect of the business. They must understand the overview of the business. That doesn't mean that they have to do every function. What functions they're not good, they have to be able to rely on a professional, an expert, an outsourcing agent, whether it be your HR, whether it be your marketing, whether you are going to have to hire people to help. Typically, entrepreneurs start as a 1 or 2 person shop with an idea, and then they go out and they want to implement it. So then sit down and plan. To be an entrepreneur means you have a great idea, but you also have to put the plan in place. How are you going to handle your accounting? How are you going to handle your finance? How are you going to handle your banking? Who's going to do the marketing? Who's going to do the operations? What is it that you're going to do? What are you over? You're over all of those aspects as an entrepreneur. So you need to know enough about business that you can go out and overview it and see at least if you're in the plan that you've created, get professional help if you need to, creating a strategic plan and a business plan that you can follow. Then what parts are you going to be responsible for, and what parts are somebody else going to be responsible for? Innovation is important. Our world is built on people's innovation and entrepreneurship. So it's not that you can't be that person, but you also have to know the rest of the business aspect. You can't just be the inventor. If you're the inventor of a product or service, and then you don't know anything about business, or you don't have anybody to support that adventure, then you're going to spend all the time on the invention or the service and no time on building the business, so that you're no longer a sole entrepreneur. Sole entrepreneur means you're a person out there on the island by yourself and you're doing every function, and that's exhausting and it causes burnout. And what ends up happening is you end up losing some of the best clients you could have ever had. Let's say you owned a vending company, and you go out there and you're like, I can buy all the vending machines and I can get them placed because I'm a great salesperson and I can get them all placed. But let's say you don't know how to fix the broken ones. Maybe you don't know about the ability to, the life cycle of foods, or how to store them. If you don't have that expert in there, guess what? You're not going to be able to service those vending machines, because you can't place, pick up, store, buy, and get more clients. Something's going to fall, and then you're going to lose one of your biggest clients, most likely. So it's all about the plan and executing the plan. And when you execute the plan, the sky's the limit, because you're developing not only yourself, you're developing your organization, and you're putting the right people in the right places. And you look for the one that's going to be loyal to your organization and make sure that you're going to be successful. It's not necessarily that friend around the corner that can't keep a job. It's not necessarily the person around the corner that dabbles in a little bit of computers and might be able to get your marketing out, because guess what? That's what it's going to look like. So you got to get the expert in there that's going to help you. Now, expert might mean you hire it and they work for you. Like a personal assistant might be the first one, but maybe they have accounting background and they can get your books right. Or maybe it's a third-party agency, like an HR function where you have someone doing your payroll for you. Whatever the way you get it done, you want it to be professional, you want it to hold your values, and you want it to show the value of your product and service. Because if they don't service you well, you're going to lose those clients and you won't have that profit.
And now, Rhonda, invariably, are you suggesting that they engage in feasibility studies?
Feasibility studies is awesome, because a feasibility study will allow you to know if that product and value will really answer the problem. Because you want to assess the organization. That should be done at the very beginning of any new product, any new service, any new organization. Is it feasible to do this? If it's not feasible, that it doesn't answer the question, go back to the drawing board. That doesn't mean that you've lost your entrepreneurial opportunity. It means that you found that your product or service doesn't have the value for that the market needs. So it's kind of a catch-22. You go back to the drawing board if the feasibility study comes out that it's not going to work. But if it comes out that it is, then you put the plan in place.
Now, that's the whole essence of personal development and self-improvement. I believe that all of the topics that we explore on Omobola by Omobola Stephen, now all the insights that experts and professionals share on the podcast may not really come as as easy as it may seem or as they put it, but really the importance of personal development and self-improvement is for us to continually improve ourselves, as everything is not going to happen overnight, but we need to embrace these changes as they come in order for us to see the changes that we really need in our life. Now, I lay emphasis on changes because when we don't embrace changes, we may not see the changes that our life truly deserves. Thank you, Rhonda, for that. Now, I'd like us to talk about emotional intelligence. Now, really, we emphasize the importance of emotional intelligence in the workplace, especially from the leadership. Now, but I'd like us to move towards the small business or the medium-sized business owners. Now, how important is emotional intelligence in businesses? Now, let's talk about.
So the first thing you have to realize is, for those that are not familiar with emotional intelligence, it's the ability to regulate emotions of self and others. Think about emotions and how that destroys many a times initiatives that we're trying to get started. Maybe fear of change. Maybe there's competition in the organization or from level to level, or structure to structure, or individual to individual. Whatever that emotion is, positive or negative, can get in the way of productivity. So in the small and middle-sized business, emotional regulation is important. They have found, and it started in the 80s by Daniel Goleman, that emotional intelligence is more important to the success of an individual or the organization than IQ itself. So you have IQ and you have EQ. EQ is 21 different characteristics that are in 4 different buckets of dimensions. The first one is intra skills. So the intra skills of your organization, the individuals in your organization, is important. This is the ability to have self-awareness of those emotions, of the processes, of their own biases, and of their own opinions. So when you walk into the room as a leader and you say, okay, today we're going to do this and we're going to implement that, and there's no feedback, you have no idea not only what the bomb you've just set off in everybody's world, but also the bomb that you have created in the organization. So you have to have a balance between assertiveness of presenting ideas and the ability to be aware of what those ideas are going to do to other people and give them the space to process, regulate their own emotions, and express. Wait a minute. If we do that in operations, then this is what's going to happen in accounting, or this is what's going to happen in marketing. And then you work out the processes through the regulations of each other's emotions, fears, thoughts, concerns. And then what ends up happening is that idea becomes better and stronger by everybody's individual input. And so when you do that, you have self-regard for your employees, yourself, and you move to the next dimension of emotional intelligence, which is interpersonal skills. Now, interpersonal skill, you're going to say, what does social skills have to do with this process? It has everything. You can ask everybody for the ideas, but how are you going to get them to buy into the change? How are you going to get them to buy into your values? How are you going to get them to be socially responsible with the message that you just gave them? And how are you going to problem solve to make sure that you're actually producing an outcome that solves the problem that you thought you were doing? A lot of times we solve the symptoms, not the actual problem that is creating it. So then you can do a reality test, your feasibility test, the ability to find out, can we do this? Then you go into the third bucket for emotional intelligence, which is stress management. Anytime there's a change, anytime there's a new idea, anytime we talk, basically, you're going to cause stress in somebody else's world, right? Because you walk in and maybe they're they're thinking about something at home, or maybe they're thinking about a project they're working on in the office, and you've come in with a totally different thing, and their stress tolerance may not be managed. Help them manage the stress tolerance and the impulse control so that you can actually get it done. I had a leader that I tested when I did a test on emotional intelligence for the UN Global Compact Committee. And one of the leaders had the highest emotional intelligence score I'd ever seen, except for two buckets. And that was stress management and impulse control. That meant for every golf outing, they were gone. And every stressful thing, they were hiding in their office with the door closed. You have to be able to talk through these things. And then when you talk through them, you get through them, you've done the interpersonal, and the stress management, then the general mood of the whole organization falls in line with a more optimistic, happy mood, vibe, however you want to say it, to getting the work done.
Now, in terms of customer engagement, I like us to apply emotional intelligence to the budding entrepreneur, those who've been in the business between the years of 5 to 10 years. Now, how important is it for them to have emotional intelligence in order for them to build customer engagement? Perhaps if they understand the importance of emotional intelligence, they wouldn't have downplayed it.
Right. Well, first of all, emotional intelligence when it comes to your customer engagement should be forefront. You should always be able to put yourself in the shoes of the customer. When you're able to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and have a positive engagement, maybe through empathy, maybe through the ability to communicate, maybe through even the stress management, deflating the stress that might be between you and the client because of whatever has occurred. When you practice these options, then what ends up happening is you end up regulating not only yourself, but you regulate their ability to comprise or control their own emotions when it comes to it. So you want to use it to engage the client to buy, but you also want to use it to engage the client to de-escalate bad situations. Empathy is a big part of answering the need of the customer. You know, you have to know, what is their world like, and how does this affect the value and the processes that they're doing in their own organization or their own lives.
Rhonda, do you have any important information that you think the audience can benefit from? Any project you think it's going to be super beneficial to them? Now, this is the time you can share that, if there's any.
I would love to. First of all, I'm a very high believer that for you to be successful, you have to have some sort of life balance, right? So I write all the time. I wrote, first of all, a fiction novel that's a whodunit thriller. And you're like, what's that got to do with business? But you know what? Crossroads is about everybody in the entire book is out of balance. They're either dedicated to all the wrong things. There's the workaholic that's all she does, and she gets called to jury duty, and she doesn't want to be there because she's got to get back to work. You got the law and order guy dedicated to government and law and order, and you have the ones that are dedicated to friendship. But what you find out in there is we're talking about all of us. Because when we're not in balance with all of the aspects, whether it's our organization, there's 13 dimensions of our personal, development, which is your interpersonal, your intrapersonal, your finances, your emotions, your spirituality, all of these things. If you're not in line with that, not only in your professional life, but your personal life, you are going to be out of balance. And then guess what? Whoop. We have a second book. Let's do a workbook. Let's get you in balance. Let's get your purpose signed out so you know what your values are. And it's a workbook. You can get it online. Just, download it, read it, and let's get you back on purpose. And then you realize, wait a minute. We aren't only as entrepreneurs doing all these things. but sometimes life hits. Sometimes we did it to ourselves. And sometimes, guess what? Life did it to us. It could be a loss of a loved one. It could be anything. So then let's talk about how to make you resilient. How do you make yourself resilient while you're doing all these things? How do you nurture yourself? What are your support systems? Do you know who you should call when you have a health problem? Do you know who you should call when you have a financial question? See, many a times we have this cookie cutter approach that everybody should be able to answer all of our needs. Guess what? That's not the way it is. Some people don't know anything about finance. So don't waste your breath trying to get advice from them about finance. Others may not know anything about how to stretch and yoga and meditate. And then how are you going to put good things in your life while you're busy trying to build that entrepreneurial spirit and your business? Well, first of all, be intentional. Are you looking at the skyscrapers and finding beauty? Are you looking at the wildlife as you're walking from place to place and saying, oh, that squirrel's adorable? Are you opening up your blinds and letting the sun in because you haven't seen the light while you worked on the project? You have to have some resilience built into your life so you can be happy, content, and guess what? Then your business will thrive also, because when an entrepreneur is happy and they've transformed and they've taken the courage to follow their purpose, then the business will have a profit.
Now, amazing, and really excited about this project, especially your book, Rhonda. Sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I and the audience of Library by Omobola Stephen, we sincerely wish you best of luck in this project that you proposed to the audience and the subsequent projects that you're going to embark upon in the nearest future. Thank you once again, Rhonda. Do you have any social media handles? I know you have, and also your website to share with the audience so they can connect and learn more about what you do.
Sure. Just my website's RhondaParker-Taylor.com. You'll be able to find all my social media on there, but they are all under RhondaParker-Taylor.com or Rhonda Parker-Taylor for whatever the social media is. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn. Follow us. Follow the podcast right here. This is an excellent resource. Think about it. You can sit, listen, work, and get ideas. When you put your professionals together and your experts together, you're gonna build.
Absolutely. Thanks for the motivation, Rhonda Parker-Taylor. You're an American writer, entrepreneur, and academic researcher. Now, we've been having a worldwide discussion talking about the entrepreneurial spirit, how we can build a purpose-driven business with heart. Thank you once again for sharing your thoughts and your expertise to the audience of Live World by Omobola Stephen. We really appreciate your contribution to the topic of discussion and also your valuable time. Wish you best of luck once again, Rhonda. Now, if you'd like to catch up any missed episodes of Live World by Omobola Stephen, now you can do so on any cross-promotion platforms. I mean, podcast cross-promotion platforms, podcast community you find online, or podcast distribution platforms you find online. Just search for Live World by Omobola Stephen, and I guarantee you are going to have an absolutely great time as you listen to mind-shift conversations that are disruptive yet constructive in nature. To always stay safe. I talk to you soon. This is Omobola Stephen. Thank you for joining me on the show. Thank you once again, Rhonda.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.